When it comes to new announcements from Disney, the real reveals are often in the details, and boy, did we get some real gems from Disney's latest news splits. On Monday, November 24th, Disney hit us with a 1-2 punch with news about Disneyland Paris's Disney Adventure World and its new slate of offerings, including its new World of Frozen. All the while, the latest episode of We Call It Imagineering on YouTube really pulled back the curtain on Imagineering's work with robotics and AI, with a special spotlight on their new walk around animatronic Olaf, complete with a removable carrot nose and movable stick arms. Seriously, this animatronic was way more impressive than I was expecting, and I'm so glad to see that it's supposed to be used for the parks and doesn't appear to just be another tech demonstration. But that is not what I'm here to talk about. I want to bring your attention to some clues that Disney dropped in all the news about upcoming projects and lands for both Walt Disney World and the Disneyland Resort. So, once again, you are watching Probably at Disney. Please do hit that like button and subscribe if, like me, you just love Disney park news and analysis. And come along as we shed some light on what Disney revealed about Cars Land, Villains Land, and Monstropolis for Walt Disney World, and most likely Disneyland's version of Pandora, the World of Avatar, Avengers, Infinity Defense, and possibly beyond. So, in Walt Disney Imagineering's latest We Call It Imagineering YouTube series, Disney showcased its frontal projection technology. And I admit this really surprised me because I thought Disney was moving away from projection face animatronics, but supposedly this is different. Front projection will allow Imagineering to project a face not on a mechanical head, but rather a shell or even a blank mask. And this method will allow for incredible detail like skin texture and wrinkles, but also, as Disney described, transformation and the ability to allow a character to look, and I quote, more battle scarred. They can even get cut across the face and bleed, and they can shed a tear and cry. And it was really impressive. And Imagineering's choice of words in describing what they could do seemed a bit like a hint, which I'm going to circle back to in a sec. Do hang with me. But that is not all that Disney had to say about front projection. In discussing this tech, the Disney Parks blog specifically stated that front projection will allow for actions previously not possible, like crying or blushing, and allowing for a whole new level of immersive emotional connection for guests. Furthermore, and this is the really good part, audio animatronic technology will also let Imagineers bring beloved characters from the screens to the parks faster and more accurately than ever before, and it's especially transformative for characters who have traditionally challenging features to create, such as Mike Wazowski from Monsters Inc., Lightning McQueen from Cars, and Hades from Hercules. Now, if you've been paying attention to the Disney newssphere over the last year and a half, you know that Mike Wazowski, Lightning McQueen, and Hades are all getting their own theme park lands at Walt Disney World, and which are likely opening in the order that these characters were named. In other words, Monstropolis for Hollywood Studios, Cars Land or Piston Peak for Magic Kingdom, and Villains Land also for Magic Kingdom. So there's a lot of likely reveals and or confirmations packed into the single sentence. Let me break them down for you. First of all, unlike many fans suspected, the Mike Wazowski animatronic from the soon-to-be closing Monsters Inc. Mike and Sully to the Rescue attraction at Disney California Adventure may not be recycled for Walt Disney World after all. Or if it is, it doesn't sound like it will be the only version of Mike that guests will get in Monstropolis. A front projection of Mike certainly sounds like it's in the works. But the question now is whether it's meant for the Monsters Inc. door coaster or that still unnamed show replacing Pavilion 3D. Now hear me out on this. This is some speculation on my part, I admit. But after seeing the walk-around Olaf animatronic, could a Mike Wazowski version be what Disney is thinking for the show? Just something to think about. But overall, if you're keeping track, this certainly sounds like at least one new cutting edge animatronic is confirmed for Hollywood Studios' Monstropolis, and it is Mike Wazowski. As for Lightning McQueen, this one is the least surprising since Disney already confirmed the presence of a Lightning McQueen and Mater animatronics for Magic Kingdom's Piston Peak. Now we know they're likely to be front projection animatronics. And since Disney described this tech as being able to show texture and wear and tear, wouldn't it be interesting if some of the mud and water from the track will appear or splash up on these characters during the attraction as guests drive by? However, I am curious about whether Disney may also use the animatronics or another copy of them for a fixed meet and greet location, like a winner's circle photo op. Disneyland has roaming Lightning McQueen and Maters rolling around Radiator Springs, but Disney World typically doesn't embrace roving characters, and the two pieces of Piston Peak concept art that we have show spaces where I think a meet and greet would be possible. Think of the toothless meet and greet at Epic Universe's How to Train Your Dragon Isle of Berk. I think this could be possible for Lightning McQueen and Mater at Piston Peak. Now let's talk Hades, which is one of the more intriguing teases from this portion of the news. Hades has been named as one of the various Disney villains inspiring Magic Kingdom's Villains Land, but Disney naming him specifically in this blog post today was a choice, even if the language itself was non-committal. However, this may be the second reference Imagineering has made to Hades' presence in the upcoming land, as another video from Walt Disney Imagineering that was recently posted offered a little preview of some fake flame effects they're developing, one in particular that used holographic material. Imagine if they combined those flame effects with a front projection animatronic head. This would even allow him to change colors with his moods as he does in the film. I also think the specific mention of Hades could have something to do with that other Villains Land attraction that has yet to be named or even described. But circling back on Imagineering's video of the human projection face and Imagineering's strange mention of how they can cry or bleed or appear battle scarred, this really struck me because typically Disney characters, especially animated Disney characters, are not going to bleed in front of guests or appear like they've been in a battle, and especially not like Mike Wazowski or Lightning McQueen. So this raises the question of what possible attraction or property this kind of a feature would even be needed for. And the answer, I think, is Avengers Infinity Defense coming to Disney California Adventures Avengers Campus. Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige recently stated that this coming attraction, which is going vertical right now, is, in his opinion, by far the largest collection of heroes we've ever put into an attraction. And as a refresher, we know that this attraction is going to transport guests to different battles, putting them right in the middle of the action. The front projection blank mask or shells would be perfect for this kind of ride because, as we're seeing here, actors' faces can be the canvas. Furthermore, as the attraction goes on and we see these familiar heroes engage in battle, we can then also see the effects of that on their faces, just like we would in the movies. So I'm calling it now. This video segment was a quiet teaser of how we're getting the Avengers to assemble in Infinity Defense. Now, another segment of Walt Disney Imagineering's video focused on aquatic robotics, and I personally found this really interesting. Of course, what you're seeing clearly looks like the Ekrons or Banshees from Avatar, and specifically the ones from Avatar: The Way of Water that can dive into the waves. And it seems obvious that this is being made for Disney California Adventures Pandora, the World of Avatar, especially since that land is based on the Way of Water. But something I want to share is a theory about this manta ray test. Could this be for Avatar 2? Maybe. But what if it has something to do with Moana and her grandma Tala? That's what immediately came to mind for me when I saw this, and given the cash cow that Moana has proven to be, I would be shocked if there weren't more theme park experiences in the works for that franchise. Last but not least, Disney shared some details about the next new attraction on both Disney World and Disneyland's docket, and that is the new version of Millennium Falcon Smugglers Run for Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. And regardless of whether you care about this attraction or not, what Disney is doing with it is pretty revolutionary and a change in the narrative for how Disney is often slow to capitalize on an IP and to get something done in the parks. As a reminder, an overlay is coming to Millennium Falcon Smugglers Run both at Disney World and Disneyland on May 22nd of 2026, the same day that the Mandalorian and Grogu movie will arrive in theaters. And this overlay will be strongly inspired, if not based on that movie itself. And there's going to be a whole new ride film and locations to visit. Now, we have known somewhat unofficially for a while that Disney is improving and enhancing all the positions in the cockpit, including the gunner position and especially the engineer, with reports saying that those who have the engineer job will now have the chance to interact with Baby Yoda during the ride. But in the Imagineering YouTube video, Disney shared some other information too, saying how they are using the same models from the production of the Mandalorian and Grogu movie in the theme park ride. They described basically going shopping through Lucasfilm's library for this movie, meaning what we're going to see in the ride is the same as what we're seeing in the film. So Imagineering isn't recreating what happens in the movie. They're taking the same visuals, they're taking the same material. It's, as they described it, authentic, and it's also faster. The use of faster really stuck out to me. Disney used that term a couple of times in all of this news that broke. And I think that is Disney signaling that they want us to know that speed is a problem for them, as they're often behind the curve when it comes to what guests want in the parks and getting it done. And this new overlay was also described as being better quality, another signal that they have likely heard that we haven't been that impressed with the ride film in the Falcon since it debuted. Furthermore, they said that this will be a real-time video with the interactivity and agency being improved. So a big selling point for this attraction when Galaxy's Edge first opened was how your performance in flying the Falcon would really be a big deal. You would be able to crash the Falcon, or you could complete your mission with Han Solo-like expertise. But that has never really been the case. Figuring out how to fly the Falcon and doing it well is nearly impossible, and honestly, it doesn't really matter. So the fact that interactivity and agency have been upped means we're finally getting a little bit closer to what we were initially promised. So I'm going to end today's video with a bit of a question for you, and it may be somewhat controversial, but in regards to the front projection animatronics and the range of emotion that they can employ, would you prefer this over the sculpted Walt Disney animatronic that debuted at Disneyland earlier this year? Resemblance and facial expressions were the biggest issues with that Walt animatronic, so could that be better achieved with this tech? And given Disney's focus on improving animatronics, do you think they'll have to upgrade the animatronics at Magic Kingdom's Carousel of Progress once that redo gets underway? Of course, I always want to hear your thoughts, not only on this, but on any other topic that we covered today. Disney certainly gave us quite a bit to think about and dropped some major clues about lands and rides that are on their way. But once again, if you enjoyed today's video, please do hit the like button and subscribe. But regardless, thank you for taking the time to watch, and I hope you have a magical day. Turn on.